All right, the threat from China isn't just taking the form of cell phones and 5G, but drones as well. That's according to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. An alert from DHS warns that Chinese-made surveillance drones, popular with consumers, businesses, and law enforcement, may be compromising confidential data. The DHS did not name any manufacturer in particular, but roughly 80% of consumer drones in the U.S. are made by this one company, DJI, a Chinese company. The government appears concerned that just like with the phones and 5G and tech giant Huawei, that this Chinese company may be sharing confidential and sensitive data with the Chinese government. So for more on this, we'll turn now to investigative journalist Ben Swann. So Ben, we think of drones and national security, but, you know, of course, we're thinking of these Predator drones over Afghanistan with these Hellfire missiles. But these are the smaller drones, the ones, you can buy from Amazon. What kind of sensitive data could these little harmless, well, I think harmless drones, what kind of sensitive data could they potentially get from us?
Well, they're pretty limited in what kind of information you can get. So what you would really be looking for if you were actually trying to access these drones to steal important information would be to log into the user's account somehow, which many times is linked to a cell phone or a controller that is connected to the actual drone itself. So for instance, DJI. So I own a DJI drone. I've owned a couple of others. By the way, DJI by far makes the best drones out there. But if you have a DJI drone, then you a lot of times will use like an iPhone as the controller. And that iPhone would also have your DJI account linked to it, which might have credit card information. It might have email addresses and personal location information. And then on the drone itself, there would be flight logs and GPS information about the flight logs themselves. How any of that relates to national security, though, I have no idea.
So, okay, so I mean, hackers happen, right? I mean, you can't just point the finger at any particular manufacturer, because it happens with even just your standard Apple account, right? So,
absolutely.
With that said, this coming from DHS, is this intelligence paranoia over China? Is it overblown, or do you think some of it's justified?
No, I have a hard time thinking it's justified, and I know that when we talk about this, it always sounds like I'm so down on what DHS is doing. But the problem I have here is there is no clarity, there is no transparency into the so-called risks that are used. So DHS used terms like risks. Please define what that means. For the Chinese government, if they were able to get third-party data, from U.S. users, and were able to pull up GPS logs, how is that a risk to national security? How is it a risk for them to know where you're flying your DJI drone around your town? It doesn't make any sense why that's a risk to national security. And so the problem I have with it is that same with Huawei, right? If there really is a threat here, just tell us what that is in specificity so that the American public can understand the actual danger if there is one. But if there isn't one, stop using terms like risk and national security threat to describe essentially Chinese companies that you're trying to put out of business because of a trade war you have with China right now.
And there you go. I was just going to ask you if you think, given that DJI in particular produces about 80% of these drones that Americans are flying, is this just another swipe at a big Chinese company to hurt their economy?
Yeah, I think it really is. I mean, the drones are one part of it. DJI actually makes a whole series of equipment that you use with in a variety of ways. And so they also make, for instance, Steadicams. They have something called the Ronin S, which is a Steadicam, which I also own, right? And in order to use that, you also have to download an app for that. And it gives information to your account and your location, those kinds of things, right? But here's the thing, Manila. Every company is doing this. So why is the U.S. government not raising flags about Facebook and saying Facebook, which is collecting far more data about activity and location than DJI is? Why are we not warning about their app? Why are we not warning about all the apps on the App Store that are doing this? This is the basic function of applications. We don't necessarily have to like it, but to pretend that somehow if it's Chinese, it's dangerous, and if it's everyone else, it's safe, I think it's just disingenuous.
I wonder what would happen if a Russian company made a drone, but that's a different talk for a different day.
God forbid.
God forbid, because that would be a whole different controversy. But, flying your drone, checking out the neighbor's pool could be national security, Ben. We're mapping out the streets for the Chinese. apparently.
Right.
Last question
Which
to you.
Google's already done for all of us, by the way.
That is true. That is true. Last question, though. So with this level of concern over, we've heard cell phone technology, microchips, and obviously now the drones, are we going to see parallel versions of technology develop in the U.S. And China? Like, will the U.S. have to step up its 5G technology, its drone technology, or will China have to recreate their own microcosm of Internet of Things and, Chinese stuff, you stay in China, and American stuff, we use here in the U.S.?
So one of the problems that the Trump administration is going to run into is that when you start down this road, it's more than just China versus the U.S. And as Rachel mentioned in her report, $20 billion annually for U.S. manufacturers of components to go into Huawei phones. That has a huge effect on U.S. manufacturers. Yeah. Japan is complaining, saying, hey, these rules would have a huge impact on us because we're also creating components that Huawei uses. And so what happens is this. It's not as cut and dry as, well, the Chinese will do their own thing and the U.S. will do its own thing. U.S. suppliers are very dependent on the Chinese market, where goods are created very cheaply. We can have an argument about whether that's good or not, but they're created very cheaply. And there's an enormous market of consumers there. And so I think with the Trump administration, what they're going to find out is the kind of pushback they're going to get from a lot of businesses and major corporations in this country who frankly run most of politics anyways, who are going to give them pushback to say, you're not going to cut into our bottom line by $20 billion a year. That's just not going to happen. So I think we're going to see it back off. The fact that the U.S. Commerce Department's already backing up, the fact that Google and Android reversed within 24 hours. And that's so quick. Don't tell me that's because suddenly you realize the Chinese weren't as bad as you thought they were. It's because you got pressure from companies like Google saying, we're not going to let you cut into our bottom line.
Yeah, surprise. It's a global economy, guys. All right, Ben, we got to leave it right there. Ben Swann, as always, appreciate your take on this.
Manila, thanks.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.